episode, we actually have a guest that's returning from all the way back in season 1. I have already pulled the link for that episode so that it will be in the show notes so you can revisit it. But Dawn Shuler is back again, and we were talking about culture last time. But today we're kind of touching on culture in a different way. It's like our internal culture. And what I mean by that is today we're talking about the stories we tell ourselves, the thoughts that we have, and how those thoughts can impact our behaviors and what we're able to do in the future. Have you ever noticed that sometimes the biggest obstacle that's standing between you and the thing that you want, the life that you want, the relationship that you want, isn't always another person or a thing? It might be ourselves. When we have honest conversations about what's standing in the way, sometimes we find out it's ourselves. There's nothing else that's standing in our way. And that's what I mean by the culture internally. It's what are you telling yourself? What are those thoughts that you're having? What story are you telling? And how long have you been telling yourself that story? So our goal today is to help you have that mental breakthrough and kind of talk through how we can change that narrative, what stories we're telling ourselves, what kind of comes up in leadership time and time again. And to do that, I have Dawn here today. So thank you for coming back again. I guess it wasn't too bad the first time since you decided to come back.
And you are one of my favorite people, so I will show up wherever and whenever you ask me
Ah, she came off the mountain for this. If you're not local, you don't know what that means, but she came off the mountain, and that's a big deal. So thank you.
You are so welcome, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, like I said, last time we talked about cultures within organizations, and I thought it was a really good episode. We'll send people back there again, and they'll get kind of background on you if they haven't met you before. But today I wanted to talk to you specifically about these breakthroughs because I feel like you and I have some experiences in the past that maybe have shaped the way that we see certain situations or the way we see ourselves. So I thought it was a good opportunity for us to dig into it. But a lot of times I feel like when I'm meeting with leaders, they talk about limiting beliefs that they might have. When you hear limiting beliefs, what does that mean to you?
That is a great question. First of all, I believe we all have them.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we get past that, we change our belief so it is no longer limiting. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
And there are others. And I don't know that a human will ever get to the end of their life and have gotten rid of all limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
I think my personal belief is that our mission is to become the very best person we can be, to develop to the highest version of ourselves. And that's an ongoing, constant practice. So limiting beliefs are those. I had a friend over this weekend, and she's very practical and passionate and very spiritual, but also business and analytical. And she was at this women's retreat, and she was talking about how this woman said, well, but this is the truth. And my friend Jenny said, that's your truth. That's not my truth. So when you ask me, what do I think of when I hear limiting belief? It's that thing that we are so sure is true, but it's our version of what we believe is a truth, and it's not necessarily true.
Okay, that makes total sense to me, but where do you think they come from? Like, where does that originate for someone?
Well, since I am married to a former psychotherapist, I would probably say, family of origin and what's modeled for us. And what do we see and hear and observe when we're growing up? How do our parents interact with each other? How do they communicate? What are the spoken and unspoken things that happen? So many things mold us. What do we see on TV? What do we hear on the radio? Well, I guess, do they even have radio anymore?
They do.
Okay, good. I listen to Spotify, so I'm like, radio. And all of that shapes us. And so the things that become true for us. So I'll give you a great example. Not that this is a limiting belief, but it's an example of how things shape us. So when Mark, my husband, moved to Maryland from California to be with me and my daughters, we'd eat dinner and get up from dinner, and he'd never push in his chair. And my daughter said, "Why does Mark never push in his chair?" And he said, "Because when I was growing up, we didn't have a dining room table. We ate
Interesting.
dinner, where we could grab it. We might have a TV tray, or we had it on our laps, on the couch. We sat on the floor. We didn't have a dining room table. What the heck is that?" And so it's just one of those things that, so my girl's truth was, you get up from the table, you push in your
Mhm.
chair. His truth was, you just eat dinner wherever you can grab a
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah. It's so funny that you bring that up because I have been all about when we eat at our house, we need to eat at the table. And then sometimes the boys are like, "But can we watch TV while we eat or whatever?" And I'm like, "I really think it's important that we sit at a table together to have the meal." And that was instilled in me. We ate every meal together at the table. No one
Hmm.
took food anywhere else in the house. That was unheard of. So I can see where, yeah, that shaped it. Not a limiting belief, but can you give an example of a limiting belief if people don't know what we're talking about?
Absolutely. So, as you know, on the side, I do art,
Hmm.
and right before COVID, before we knew there was a COVID, I was just cranking on playing with techniques. I had all this art. I probably had 100 pieces in 6 months because I just kept doing stuff. And I'm like, what do I do with all of this?
Hmm.
Can only put so many things on the walls. And Mark would say, well, somebody will love it. And so then I thought, well, I could sell some. And I had some people actually see it on Facebook
Hmm.
and they bought it, or they commissioned a couple pieces. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I could do that. And I thought, so maybe I'll put up an Etsy shop. I thought, it's COVID, because at this time it was COVID. I can't sell art during COVID. That's just not right. And I realized, where did that belief come from? Or I asked myself, where did that belief come from? And I realized, it's a limiting belief. Who says I can't sell art?
Yeah.
Yes, some people are struggling, maybe financially, because their job disappeared, or they're working remotely from home. So yay, they have a job, but they're social animals, and now they can't see anybody. They
Yeah.
can't talk to people. They can't go to a coffee shop. Can't even go out to a restaurant. Maybe they need some joy and beauty in their life.
Hmm.
And so when I reframed it, I realized my belief wasn't a true belief. It was some construct I had
Yeah.
created.
So, how do you think people can distinguish between the reality and the narrative they're telling themselves? Does it take someone outside of them to point it out? Like, Mark saying to you, like, why not? Or how does that work?
I definitely think so. I'll give you another example
Okay.
that's a little silly.
It's not silly. I'm sure it's not.
So, Mark every now and then would snore. I don't snore. So I don't understand, why he can't control that. So sometimes he'd get up and he'd go sleep on the couch.
Yeah.
And so then I'd grab his pillow and I'd kind of snuggle with it. Like I had an
Hmm.
extra, like, oh. And it's not that I wished for him to go sleep on the couch, but I was like, I can't have a second pillow. And then why can't I have a second pillow? Like,
Hmm.
what?
Yeah.
Because it won't look good on the bed when we make like there was, so I really looked at that like, okay, I want his pillow. Why don't I just sleep with a second pillow? Whether he's
Hmm.
there or not there, I've got my second
Yeah.
pillow. Um, and both of those happened around the same time. And so I started thinking, I actually taught a class on this, virtually, of course, because it was COVID. What are those limiting beliefs that we're so sure they're true, they're
Hmm.
facts, but are they?
Yeah.
And let's start with something. I can't do this, or
Hmm.
that's not for me. Other people can do that. It's not possible for me. Let's dig down. And so taking
Yeah.
people through a process of deconstructing that.
Yeah. Where is that coming from? Yeah, I was trying to think of some of mine too, because I knew this episode was coming, and they're everywhere, right? I can't have a podcast. Who would want to listen to me, right? Who's gonna sit down and listen to that? There are so many other podcasts out there. Why would anyone choose to listen to mine?
Mm-hmm.
So anytime that like someone reaches out, hey, I was listening to your podcast and this really resonated with me, or I was just, it was what I needed to hear that day, then I'm like, I'm starting to break it down. Like, I guess some people would spend the time listening to it. Well, why? Why would they choose that? Because I want to make sure I'm giving them the thing that they need, right? I was thinking back the other day, I was talking about how much you charge as a business owner. Like, when I started my business, I know I was shifting industries, and what was I making as a teacher? Maybe $35 an hour at the point that I was at. Well, I can't charge more than that. I don't even have credibility, right? How am I going to build credibility? Well, I'll never be able to charge that much. And then, I had some sales coaches and stuff working with me trying to change my mindset around my value and what I could bring, but that was really hard for me. And I had beliefs about what people would be willing to pay for a service. So that was a big one for me. But yeah, we all have them. And I was trying to think about, well, what did it take for me to start breaking those down? And it took other people. I don't think I could have ever done it without other people to kind of point out those blind spots for me too, or keep encouraging me. So, yeah. So a lot of times I feel like it comes up as people use the word imposter syndrome. They're in a place where they're like, how did I get here? I don't feel like I belong here. Do you think that's a limiting belief too?
Yes, and I believe most of us have it in some capacity or
Yeah.
respect or another. I don't know. I mean, unless maybe you're a narcissist, that anybody ever goes, I am all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have
Yeah.
no self-doubt. I have no, it doesn't even have to be self-doubt, but I think if you are, I don't want to say this, not necessarily a sensitive human being, but maybe a human being who's got some empathy and emotional
Mm-hmm.
intelligence and all that, you're always probably going to think, I don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you've got a PhD in whatever, there's always more to learn. And I think the the people who are on that journey of development understand I still don't know it all. And that's where the imposter syndrome
Yeah.
comes in. And you look at other people who are just so confident and have it all together,
That's
like
what you
you
think.
appear.
Yeah, that's what people think.
Right, because we're not necessarily faking it till we make it. And it's not necessarily a facade, but it is if I'm going to do a good job, I need my clients to know that I'm feeling confident. And I
Mm-hmm.
am confident, even though there may be other times where in the back of your mind you're like, man, if they only knew, da 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 da
Yeah.
da. And I think we all have that.
Yeah, I think so too. And I just talked I was working with a group of rising juniors and seniors this morning, and I was talking to them about obviously you don't need to look like you have it all together all the time, and that this podcast was an outlet for me to be able to not be great all the time and wing it, right? That's not something Sierra does. She doesn't wing it. So having conversations that in my mind are improv, right? And I don't have a script in front of me that I've rehearsed and practiced over and over again, but I can just sit down and have a conversation with someone. That is something that I've had to really work on and develop over time. But people are like, oh yeah, you do it so naturally. You can have, your podcast seems so natural. No, it's not at all. I don't have it all together, and this allows me to openly talk about the challenges that come up in running my business, in life in general. So I'm trying to be vulnerable and share it so that people know it's not is not perfect. That's for sure.
It's not. And I think we all get caught up, at least I know I do. So I don't mean to make a general statement that should apply to everybody. For me, I know that one of the things that happens is I look at all the things I haven't gotten done.
Mm-hmm.
So my friend Ginny, who visited us this weekend, and it's been a few months since she's been to the mountain, and we've done all this work. I've done work on repairing the stone wall and clearing space for a labyrinth, and
Yeah.
here's our plan for this, and we've done that. And as I told her all these things, I thought, Most days, I end the day with, I didn't do enough today.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but I didn't do this. Oh, we only got this far on the wall. Oh, I didn't do that research that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
But then in telling her all the things I've done, I thought, it actually sounds impressive.
Yeah.
And that made me think
Mm-hmm.
yesterday about the limiting beliefs are just, they just weasel their way in. And I think a lot of it is we focus on our what's not done list
Mm-hmm.
instead of what our to-da list. And we're always in the realm of we're not enough, not enough, not enough.
Yeah, never enough. I completely agree. It's not just a you thing. You could say it. Everybody probably experiences that. But I think of the opposite. If I were going through life and thinking that, you know, the bare minimum is enough, I wouldn't like that about me either, right? I would be like, I just,
You wouldn't be doing the work you're doing.
yeah.
It would not be possible for you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I told this story on the last podcast. If I did, so sorry, especially if y'all just listen to it and you're like, she just tells the same stories all the time. So sorry. I, in between my college semesters, I worked for Kelly Services, Manpower, and I would get long-term assignments. What's really funny is one of my first long-term assignments might have been, I don't remember if I was a sophomore or a junior in college, was for Procter & Gamble.
Okay.
And they had me rotate to the different customer service reps who would get calls. And then I had to analyze what they were doing. I had to document what they were doing. And then I didn't necessarily analyze it, but I'd have to observe and write down. So it's probably like the very beginning tiny little seeds of the CCI because, like, really?
That
Like, I
makes
was
sense.
doing employee. Anyway, I remember this one woman I was sitting next to, and she said, "Oh, it's Tuesday. There's nothing good on Tuesdays." Now, for those of you who are maybe younger than 40, we didn't have, a lot of people didn't have cable. You didn't have Netflix. It was what's on ABC at 8 p.m. or NBC or CBS, and that's what you got.
Yeah.
But her life was framed around what's on TV that night. And I'm, 19, 20, and thinking, that is really sad. I judged. I'm so sorry. I did judge.
We all judge.
We all judge. That could be another episode. We all judge, even if we say we're not judgmental. But I just thought, her life is around what's on TV every night, obviously, because,
Yeah.
it's Tuesday, there's nothing good on. And I thought, I'm so glad that that's not my life.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say, oh, you can't imagine that you would be okay with the bare minimum, she couldn't do the work you're doing
Yeah.
because she was not interested in, at least at that point in her life, maybe things
Yeah.
changed, but she was not interested in, how can I be better? How can I develop myself? What is this a limiting belief? I mean, does the average person, sitting down with a beer to watch whatever's on the tube that night thinking, I wonder if I'm getting as much out of life as I should be?
That's why I'm always like, sometimes I have to remind myself that people aren't as obsessed with growing and learning like I am. And so I tend to surround myself with people that are like-minded, right? But when I meet other people who are like, this is a world that they don't know or understand or really care to know, I'm like, wait, what? You don't want to get better every day? Like, you've never thought about what you value or like what your goals are in your life? That seems hard for me to understand. But it goes back to what you said earlier. How was I raised? And I know that all of us Collins kids, we are too motivated. It's a problem. It's a problem. We will probably all die early because we don't know what a limit is. But it's because it was modeled for us. Mom and Dad didn't ever stop. It was nonstop. From the moment they got up to the moment we went to bed, there was not relaxation. So I think it was modeled for us, and we just picked up on it.
So I would wonder for you,
Yeah,
Sierra,
this is why I love you. Ask me the questions.
what is your belief around relaxation?
Well, I know I need it. I need it to like refill my cup. The problem is when I go to do it, my mind just spins with all the things I know I should be doing that are waiting on me, and I feel guilt that I'm not doing them. So I am trying really hard to work on it. I think I am sitting down more than I used to, and actually going on these trips this year have been really helpful for me because I'm not at home. I'm in a hotel room that I don't need to clean. There's nothing I can really do around the house, kind of thing. So that's not haunting me when I sit down to like watch a TV show for a few minutes. So I think that that has helped if I can just now apply it more at home.
But would you agree with it that relaxation is only in service so that you can do more?
Mm. I think. Mm. I think I never learned that relaxation was necessary at all until I got Lyme disease. Now I feel like I have to, or it's going to come back again, and that's the only reason I do it. I'm admitting it.
No,
I'm yeah, not something I'm really proud of, but yeah, you're right. It's only so I can do more. Yeah, I have to rest so that my brain can bounce back and I can be more productive later. Hmm. Oh, is that not good?
I'm not here to judge.
It's okay. So what do you tell yourself about relaxation? How is it different than me?
So, it, so maybe define relaxation. So if I'm going to relax, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
Not what am I
Mm-hmm.
being, but what am I doing? Um, and I got some of the same issues you do, which is probably why we like each other so much. And that sometimes I judge the quality of my day on how much I got done. Now, one thing I will do is I've got a new cross stitch project. It's 160,000 stitches. So whether you cross stitch or not, if you just imagine 160,000 of those. I've done something like 5,000, 5,600 stitches, which sounds like a lot. It's 3.74% of the entire project.
You calculated. You know how much you're getting done each sitting, don't you?
Yeah, yes.
Yes. We turned everything into a challenge.
Well, and if I did 100 stitches a day, which I don't, but if I did 100 stitches a day, it would take me 4 years and 3 months. Every day. So this is obviously that it's not about the destination. Because I could just go buy the, print that somebody else spent 5 million hours doing. But I do get this enjoyment of, I'm saying sometimes I talk to my daughter, and I'm cross stitching, and I get enjoyment out of seeing the picture take place. It is productive in a way, but it's also somewhat, I don't want to say mindless, especially if I'm talking to my daughter, but I'm just doing this and I'm really focused on that. So I think of it as an active meditation. I do try to do Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning most mornings. Mark and I, we love our movies and our series, and so that is how we will spend some of our evenings together. And obviously, we're not producing anything. We're not getting something done. Oh, good. We can cross that we watched that movie off the list. Thank goodness. Now I can sleep well. It's not that, but we do enjoy and we connect with that. So those are the things I think of as relaxing. And there is an element of, look how much I got done today.
Yeah. Yeah, at the same time. As you were saying that, I was thinking about running for me. Because running used to be so fun for me. But at the same time, the moment I take off, it's a constant calculation. How far have I gone? In how much time? How does that relate to my last personal record?
Did you have a spreadsheet? Do you have a spreadsheet?
I did.
I did
I
too.
used to.
Yep. When I was
Yeah.
running regularly,
Yeah.
I had a spreadsheet.
Yeah. So that consumed my thoughts the entire time. It wasn't like, oh, look at the nature, enjoy what's going on around me, ooh, fresh air. It was constant calculation and either getting down on myself because I wasn't doing as well as I thought, or I'm having a cramp and it's going to ruin my run, and shutting down, I can't do this. And then, no, you can do it. Like the constant internal dialogue of, yeah, man, but that was relaxing to me.
So I was on the track team in middle school. I coached track when I was, out of college teaching English, coached track and volleyball. I trained for a marathon after my second daughter was born. Didn't make it because I pulled something and injured myself, but ran up until probably about 10 years ago when I had several injuries. And, but I used to run instead of walk because I could get there faster.
Yep.
Walking is so slow. It's like,
yeah.
And then, you run. It's like, shoot, I'm past that house onto the, past that house. Look. Or if you're out for an hour, you can get a whole lot farther running than you can walking.
Yeah. We have problems.
We do.
So these are all stories we tell ourselves of what we need to do to feel productive, right? Or to feel like we've had a successful day. So I think it's helpful to break that down, but I want to think about now, how does this apply to leadership? So how do limiting beliefs affect people's ability to lead effectively, in your opinion?
So I think they affect someone's ability to lead effectively the way it affects anybody's ability to do anything. It's an impact. And if you do not acknowledge it, then it becomes a problem. So going back to the leadership example, I think if as a leader you can recognize you have limiting beliefs and maybe share them with your executive team and your direct reports, so that, because as a leader you're supposed to have it all together. Well, none of us have it all together. But if we continue putting that facade forward, and everybody just thinks, well, they've got it all together, they never make a mistake, or it's always somebody else's fault, or I don't want to make a mistake because I'll disappoint them because they are up here on this pedestal, that's not good. Going back to the culture thing, not good for culture, not good for morale, not good for productivity.
Right.
So as a leader, I think it's especially important to be aware of your limiting beliefs, how they impact you. Of course, work on them, because we should all be working on our limiting beliefs, but then also being as transparent as is appropriate that these are issues that the leader is working on.
What if you notice someone else has a limiting belief?
It depends on a whole lot of things. If my boss has a limiting belief, if my subordinate has a limiting belief, if my husband has a limiting belief, if it's my husband, he already knows because I tell him. Kind of a joke, but I think it depends on the but not really. But I think it depends on the relationship and the level of, well, I guess it would be the relationship. But do you have kind of that permission to be able to say, hey, here's something I've noticed. Yeah. If that's not the way that relationship goes, or that person is not open to it, they're not going to be open to, here's something I've observed, may I share it with you?
I like how you just said that, though, because that's the idea. If you are going to share it, how do you even approach that conversation, right? And I think focusing on an observation that you've made, no judgment, right? It's an observation, and you're asking if they would like to hear it. That seems like a nice, kind, gentle approach, right? Instead of, Rich Weller was on the podcast recently. Do you know Rich?
I do not.
You should know him.
Okay.
And he kept talking negatively about himself on the podcast. Like, he kept putting himself down over and over again. And so on the podcast, I started calling him out for it. So now everybody's calling him out for it. I hope he listens to this so he hears. But maybe I shouldn't have called him out for it on the podcast, but it seemed like a great opportunity to do so. Because I'm like, why are you saying that about yourself? That's
Mhm.
not true. And I'm not sure if he was aware how often he puts himself down. So hopefully it helped. But, I think a lot of people might see these beliefs in others and not know how to navigate the conversation. Probably don't do it on a podcast. Maybe have a private conversation. But my relationship with Rich is such that I felt like the whole world could know and it was okay.
Absolutely.
He has over 100,000 followers on social media. He's an influencer, and he does a lot of videos that help people learn and
Mhm.
grow and see things differently. So I thought, you know what? Maybe he can use that. And guess what? He turned around and he used it as content. So I felt like it was okay.
There you go. So we have so one of my clients, I'm on their I'm a fractional on their executive team.
Uh huh.
And every Monday we have a meeting, and the executive it's the CEO, me, and the executive assistant. And there was one time Cher does this, so I feel like I can say it. So I'd make a mistake and I'd say, "Oh, you stupid." And I think it's a funny thing to say
Yeah.
about myself, because but Justin, who's the executive assistant, said, "Hey, watch that. Don't say it." He's 27. It was so
Oh,
cute. And he's like, that negative self-talk, like, "No, you can't do that." He's like, I've been trying to work on this and tell my friends." And I'm like, "Justin, I so appreciate that. I really do." And I said, I'm gonna look at it to see, like, am I doing that kind of negative self-talk often,
hmm.
or because I actually think I'm pretty awesome. And I try really hard not to make mistakes. So when I do, to me, it's a way to remind myself, you're not nearly as perfect as sometimes you might think you are, Dawn.
Okay. That's an
So,
interesting thought. Okay. I can see that because I would have had the same reaction as him. Like, if you keep telling yourself that, you're going to start believing it.
right, right.
So maybe you want to start toning down your
Toned it down,
confidence a little
but
bit.
maybe, but the other point of that was he felt comfortable enough to say, "Hey, Dawn, watch that,"
Mhm.
because his experience was kind of like what you're saying. Rich
Yeah.
did or does, was constant,
Mhm.
and absolutely, what is that
Yeah.
constant story, that self talk, and just being aware of what we say.
Yeah. I want to share some of the others that I hear people saying and see if this resonates with you because you've worked with a lot of different organizations. I hear people, um, a limiting belief might be, oddly enough, that they can't have other people work on something because no one can do it like them. How is that a limiting belief?
Well, so I would say there's the limiting belief portion of that, and I think there's also a trust
Yeah.
factor in that.
Hmm.
And maybe there's another limiting belief that's couched in that one, which is I can't trust anybody.
Hmm.
I do not trust, which sounds like a belief, but it definitely is limiting. And so that could be part of that um, I can do it faster. I don't have the time to teach somebody else to do it. They're not going to do the way that I want to do it. And the leaders that I've worked with that get over that, or maybe they didn't have that as an issue, acknowledge, you know what, the other person is probably not going to do it the way that I do it. And I am not perfect. And maybe even if it's not the way I do it, it'll be better, or it will reveal a different way to
Yeah.
do it. It's self-awareness.
Hmm.
I think that's the piece is, um we don't have time to do that. We have a client who said, "Oh, we don't have time to do, an internal kickoff." And then our favorite line is, "There's never enough time to do it right, but there's always enough time to do it over." Um, and so helping people see this whole, we don't have enough time. We have to move fast. There's deadlines. Like, really?
Hmm.
Unless you're working in the ER, more than likely you've got the time you need.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Time is a big one. What about if you make a mistake that people will lose confidence in you?
I wrote about this in my newsletter last month because
Okay.
it's a thing. I want to create a like a practicum where people practice failing.
Ooh.
And nobody's going to sign up for it. Because I think we're so afraid to reveal that we're human, that we're not perfect, that we do make mistakes. And so where I see this happen in organizations is, oh, we value innovation, we value creativity, we value autonomy. And then the moment that somebody is, takes autonomy, is creative, is innovative, and makes a mistake, then they're called to the carpet. Let's do a Groundhog Day debrief. How did this happen? Why did this happen? What did we not see? Da, 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 da. And then you start to learn it's better just to keep my head down and not make mistakes, not try to do anything different.
Yeah. The message that's being shared does not match what they experience. That's for sure.
Yeah,
it's very common. So when thinking about, I would consider us high achievers. We'll call ourselves high achievers, right? Because we always want more. We want to achieve something at all times. So why do you think when someone is a high achiever, they're obviously performing at a higher level, why do they still doubt themselves and lack confidence in some situations when to other people they're like, oh, you'd be so good at that, right? What do you think causes that?
I think it's because it's seeing everybody else, right? They didn't make a mistake. Their performance was great because they're not seeing the behind the scenes. Nobody sees the blooper reel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They only
and
see...
nobody will, Dawn.
I got a guy on the inside. But we know what mistakes we've made. But other people don't. So that's part of it is, oh no. There's also, so we know we make the mistakes. There's also, I think, are you familiar with the book, The Four Agreements?
Yes.
Okay.
It's been a long time since I've read it, but yes.
It's been a long time since I've read it, but what has stuck with me all these years, and I use it as a metaphor, an example all the time, is he talks about how if you're walking down the street, you've got your movie going on. You're the writer, the director, the head star. You're doing the soundtrack. You're the costumer. All of that, and everybody else in your life walking down the street is a supporting cast member, and that makes sense. And then if you realize everybody else has their own movie going on, and you are a supporting cast member, it's an interesting perspective to go. I'm going to probably go home and go, I said that thing that Cher says, and I probably shouldn't have said that. And I'll tell Mark that I did that. And oh, by the way, I mentioned you a few times, and maybe I shouldn't have because it sounds like maybe I'm throwing him under the bus. I will go through and I will critique this time.
Yeah. So I will too, and that's why I don't listen to it. But I still critique it in my head. Well, I told you when you got here, I did a solo episode earlier today, and it was terrible. And Matt won't let me re-record it. But yeah, I do the same thing. But so success does not get rid of a limiting belief.
Because we know we're not perfect. We know, and it's that whole, what do we focus on at the end of the day? What I didn't get done. What am I going to focus on when I go home? Well, I'm going to say we actually had a great time. Like Sierra and I, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff. It was awesome. And I did this, and this. Oh, I should have said this differently. Oh, this would have been a better example. I will still do that. And so that's what I think keeps us from truly shining our greatness is because we know what we didn't do or what we could have done, or, oh, if only.
Yeah, but then we apply it the next time and we get better. In my mind, right? So I turn it into something good.
Absolutely.
That's my goal.
Yes.
Turn the mistake into something good. Do you want to accelerate your revenue? Call Work Smarter Digital. Work Smarter Digital helps service-based businesses tighten up their sales process, improve follow-up, and put better systems behind their growth. Because when your sales process is messy, revenue gets messy too. Visit WorkSmarterDigital.com to learn more and book a demo. That's WorkSmarterDigital.com. At some point, growth requires more than listening to a podcast. It requires structure, accountability, and someone who can challenge how you're thinking. That's where coaching comes in. Our one-on-one coaching is designed as a long-term partnership focused on clarity, communication, and consistent execution over time. This isn't about quick fixes, it's intentional growth. If you're ready to go deeper, you can start by filling out the individual leadership interest form linked in the show notes. You can also learn more at SierraLearnership.com. That's SierraLearnership.com. This year's lineup brings real-world experience from business, media, government, and leadership at the highest levels, including a former FBI Chief of Staff, high-performing sales leaders, communication experts, and business strategists. This isn't theory, it's real leadership. Join us October 14th and secure your seat at theTSLS.com. That's theTSLS.com. Should I start sharing all the mistakes I make?
At least some of them. I think we need to model. This is the program I would create if I thought anybody would sign up for it, which is model making mistakes and then what happens afterwards.
Yeah.
Think about it in an organization, on a team. I made this mistake. And so how does the rest of the team react?
Yeah.
And I know I have had the best success. I usually figure out the mistakes I make first, right? It's not somebody else brings it to me and I go, oops, wow.
Yeah.
Oh no. It's usually I figured out and I go, oops, wow, oh no, but I figured out. And then I go to the other party, the client, whoever it might be, and say, by the way, I figured out, I realized I did this. And I've also already tried to think of a solution. And I can't think of a time it didn't happen that way, or about what I'm about to say, it didn't happen that way. That any client has been like, it's fine, it's good, and the way that you want to deal with it, or they have a couple tweaks. Nobody's ever mad.
Yeah.
Nobody ever, you're fired. But I'm so sure that that's what's going to happen because they made a mistake. And I think if we model that more, but if it starts with us being self-aware, we had an executive team consulting that we did with a nonprofit in Baltimore, and the CEO she was a bit high maintenance and she had her high expectations, and this came out in the executive team. And she said, you know what? I think I need to start copping to my mistakes. I need to start modeling when I make a mistake. I don't know how much she actually did that, but at least she was self-aware enough to say, I wonder if I should own those mistakes and let people see that I make mistakes.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. So are you willing to be a little vulnerable?
Haven't I already? But yes.
Yes. Okay, so I want to go beyond your pillow example. What are some of the stories you used to tell yourself that you've had to work through and overcome? That you've actually overcome? Because I want to talk through what that looked like for you. Can you think of where you've had to personally rewrite your own narrative in life or in your career?
So starting out with, as a new business owner back in 2002, brand new business owner doing work that I had never done on my own. I might have done pieces of it for organizations I'd worked with, but I'd never just been out on my own. And I was transparent about, I'm new to this, and actually the clients that brought me on, they liked because I was enthusiastic too. I can do whatever you want me to do. I can do this, and this. High energy, positive, blah, blah, blah. And then translate that when I decided to go into more consulting and training. It's like, what the heck do I know? I don't have all these credentials. I don't have an MBA. I don't have a coaching certification from Coach U or some other coach training institute. Um, but what do I know?
Mhm.
And it was the only way that I could move forward. Well, what do I
Yeah.
have? What are
Yeah.
my assets? Because I could think about my deficiencies all day long, but
Mhm.
it's not going to get me out of bed. What are my assets? All right, I'm just going to focus on that. I have degrees
Okay.
in communication and business, and I've done this, that, and the other thing. And now with a lot of the more of the training and the retreat facilitation, I remember the first program I developed in like 2006, and my grandma goes, "You're finally using your teaching stuff," because I came out of college as an
Yeah.
English teacher, and I did that for 2 years. And I just thought it was so fun. I'm like, wait, I'm teaching again? That's not what I meant to do.
It happens so
But
naturally.
but it was. But I think my limiting belief is I'm not teaching, I'm training. Because teaching meant something that I didn't like the experience of. And so training, and but for her to say, "Oh, you're teaching again." That wasn't that interesting. So what do I have around? So I don't know if that quite answers your question, because it's like I can look back and go, that's different. But what was that gradual process? And
Mhm.
I go back to focus on what I know, and I journal a lot. I've got volumes and volumes and volumes of journaling, and okay, this is what I'm afraid of, all right, so what's really true is
That would be so fun to look back on. Do you ever look back?
so usually what I do is when I finish a whole volume, before I start the next empty journal, I read through the entire thing. And then my first journal entry in the new journal is insights I got from rereading throughout the
That is
whole
so
journal.
cool.
Now, the problem is the one that I have now is about 2 to 3 inches thick. And
That's
it's going to be years it will take me forever to read through that. But unless I'm looking for something, because I've documented a lot, I can go, I think that happened in 2011. Let me go look in my journal to see.
Mhm.
I didn't journal every day, but significant stuff.
That's impressive, though.
Some of it, I don't know that I'd want to read.
Yeah. Well, I can't help but think, like, in the future, who all's going to read it?
I know. I think about that too. Like, do I put a little note to my daughter saying, "So when I'm dead, feel free to burn.
Nah.
If you want to read them, go ahead, but I am not responsible for whatever you might think, and please don't judge me, even though I'm dead and I shouldn't care."
I would be worried about it. I always think before I write anything, if someone were to read this in the future, what will they think about me? I can't help
Does it
it.
keep you from writing certain things?
Oh, yes.
Oh no.
Oh, yes.
No, no, no,
Okay.
no.
Is
That's
that bad
because
too?
well, no,
Well, you
not
have
bad
to
too.
understand, when I was younger, I had two older brothers, so my diary entries were going to be read by others, and so I was always nervous about whatever I put in here, they're going to use against me later.
Okay, that's fair. For me, and your
Mm-hmm.
experience may be different. For me, journaling is that place where I am brutally honest regardless.
Okay.
I feel like Mark is that place also that I can be brutally honest with. But even there's going to be there's some boundaries.
Yeah.
And just natural boundaries that I think, if a wife is really upset with her husband, yes, you can say that, but maybe he doesn't need to read about exactly what she thinks of him
Yeah.
in the moment of anger. Maybe not quite so helpful to the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking.
So he doesn't read your entries.
But I have told him. I'm like, I write whatever I write. I'm like, and I said, I'm not hiding anything from you. I'm like, if you 20 volumes, like, he's like, I got better things to do, which he does. So
He's never really looked.
there have been times where, not when it's about him necessarily, but about something that I think is important and I want him to get about me, I will share it with him. But I've written it with I will defend anything in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking mostly about Mark.
Yeah.
My daughters, not so much, because I think there's some things that they don't need to know about their mother.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to worry about that. But for me, the journaling is crucial to my self-development. Because if I can't be honest in my journal, where else can I be honest?
Yeah.
But I also process through writing.
Through writing. Yeah, that makes sense. So I want to go back to what you were saying because I found it so interesting. So my limiting belief when I was switching from teaching to what I'm doing now was my degrees in education, all my experiences in education. That's all I know how to do. I can't do anything else without going back to school and getting a degree. And that's why I was obsessed with, well, I at least need to get a certification because that is comfort for me to feel like I have credibility. But for me, the point at which I finally accepted that the past actually supported me was the moment I realized that I'm still teaching today. And even the curriculum development and everything, and how much it helps me to now do custom curriculum and be able to create these programs. So it's funny, that's how I found comfort in the switch, was finally figuring out the connection to teaching, and that maybe it did pay off. I don't think I'd be as effective today if I didn't have that background.
You bring up an interesting point, because I think you and I both have talked about our love of curriculum design. And so my first year teaching, right out of college, so I was 21 because my birthday's in October, so I started the school year, I'm 21 years old, and did a whole year of teaching English in Texas for 7th and 8th graders. And I was told when I got the job, you are teaching to a test, which completely went against why the heck I was teaching anyway. So it was built into 6-week curriculums, and then there were 6 of them. And so after the first year, and I followed the curriculum because I'm brand new. And then after that, I thought, okay, I know what they're trying to get, and I understand the objectives, but I don't have to follow this exactly. I can do something different. So the summer, while I was working at, still, Manpower, Kelly Temporaries, whatever it is, I rewrote the first 6 weeks of curriculum.
Okay.
It never occurred to me until you just said what you said. What 22-year-old rewrites curriculum?
Yeah.
Not every teacher.
Mm-mm.
That takes a certain skill set. That takes a way to, like, here's the objectives that need to be met. Is there a different way to meet those objectives? That's not just a teaching thing. That's a consulting thing. That's a coaching thing.
Yeah.
Here's what we're trying to do. Is there a different way to do it that's going to serve the audience better? So it's not just we can do curriculum design. It's here's the skill. I'm just applying it in a different setting.
Yeah, you are. Look, we're overcoming limiting beliefs here together
right here
today.
on your podcast.
That's what we're doing today. So, are there any limiting beliefs you hear from your clients that we haven't already touched on? I know we've discussed some common ones, but can you think of any others? Because if our listeners are experiencing some, I want to be able to share the ones we're hearing so they're not feeling alone in it.
Right. I don't know if you would call this I would call it a limiting belief, because it limits this particular organization's ability to get beyond it. I think when you're hearing the same story over and over and over, and that if you as the consultant or the leadership coach are saying, here's a different way to think about it, or here are these factors, and they go, oh, yeah. And then the next time, same story, da-da-da-da-da. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. And okay, I get it. And next time. And it's like, because they're so stuck in whatever that is for whatever reason. I know that's a little generic. I'm also trying to be somewhat anonymizing of the stories.
Of course.
But I think that if you can recognize that the same conversations are happening, if the same conversations are happening, maybe that is a sign that you're coming up against a limiting belief.
Yeah, you're telling yourself the same story over and over again. I was going to ask you how someone might know, so there you go. Okay. So, in an organization, as a team, if you keep having the same conversation over and over, bumping into the same thing, consider, what is the story we're telling ourselves?
Exactly.
I love that. Okay.
And are we able to look? I think I've talked to you about purpose outcome method. So
Mm-hmm.
what's the purpose? What's the desired outcome? And then once we figured out the outcome, then we can think about the methods.
Yeah.
And if you're just going around in a circle and hitting up the same things, then is it because you haven't really discussed the desired outcome? I don't know if that has anything to do with limiting belief, but it could be the limiting beliefs which are not allowing you to, what is it that we want, and let's talk about the methods to get there.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great strategy. Thank you for explaining that for our listeners too. Very helpful. So, if our listeners are experiencing a limiting belief as an individual, what do you want to challenge them to do? They've identified they have one. What do you want to challenge them to do based on what we've talked about today?
I think there are several ways that they can approach this.
Okay.
If they have a business coach, a business consultant, if they have a trusted friend or partner. I mentioned that Mark was a psychotherapist for 28 years. He said if people had truly trusted friends, intimate relationships in their circle, they wouldn't need therapists necessarily. That's a little generic and not always completely true, but I get the point too, that if you don't have somebody that you can trust to give you that feedback, whether it's a person in your already life or you're paying a business coach, a business consultant, ask for that feedback. Be brave, be courageous. Again, the self-reflection. I've already talked about journaling. I love journaling. Part of it is how I process. If you process audibly, maybe you record yourself on the phone, because you can process it out, and then maybe you go back and listen to it and go, oh wow, this is what I'm hearing. I do that with the writing because that's how I process. But if you're aware that you've got something that could be a limiting belief, processing through it. For me, what that looks like is, here's what I'm thinking. Why do I think that's true? Is it true for everybody? And that's one of those questions that, but it's only true for me.
Yeah.
It's probably a limiting belief.
Yeah. I was thinking about what you said earlier with, walking down and playing your own movie where you're the movie star, right? And that's the same kind of thing. Is it only true for you, or is it playing in someone else's head too? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I was going to ask you what questions they should ask themselves. So you kind of touched on that, but any other questions you feel like they should ask themselves, especially if they're feeling self-doubt? What do you ask yourself?
So I know the process I take myself through, which is helpful for me, but may not be for everybody, which is, okay, if this is true, this thing I believe, if this is truly true, what's the worst that can happen? And what is actually happening now?
Yeah.
For example, and I'm sure people can relate to this individually, is when there've been money issues and I was so worried and, we're in horrible trouble and, oh my gosh, this is awful. And I think about it, I'm like, do we have creditors knocking on the door?
Yeah.
Have they repossessed the car? Have they? Because in my mind, it was like, we're going to lose everything or whatever it was. It's like, no, there's this. Oh, so maybe we're not quite at, DEFCON 5. Maybe it's, I can never remember if it's DEFCON 5 or DEFCON 1, but whatever the worst one is. And I almost always, when I take myself through what am I afraid of and what's really true, what are the facts, not just what my truth is, but what are the facts, it's almost like, boy, these are two very different. Like if you read this script and that script, you'd say, I'm watching two different movies, going back to the movie.
Yeah. I can grow in this area. I'm learning from you right now. I am.
So say more about that, please. Not just how good I am, how awesome I am, but what it is that resonated with you and how you might apply that to yourself.
Well, I think there are a lot of things that I tell myself based on the way that I was raised. And um, I think that the way in which I make decisions in my life, I make a lot of decisions based on other people, not based on what I think is best or believe to be my path. I do it for other people. And I feel like I've told myself a specific story, and maybe I could start thinking about it a little differently. Do you like how vague I was?
I understand.
Okay. You following me?
I am following you.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go. You don't need more information. You just need a way to follow through. Aspire to Achieve is a monthly group accountability experience designed to help you stay consistent, raise your standards, and actually execute on what you say matters. Each month, we come together to make clear commitments, talk through challenges, share strategies, and celebrate progress, all in a space that keeps you focused and moving forward. It's simple, it's supportive, and it works. If you've been setting goals but struggling to stay consistent, this might be your next step. Check it out in the show notes or at sierralearnership.com. That's sierralearnership.com. Your leads aren't ghosting you, you're ghosting them. Work Smarter Digital gives small businesses a fully built, ready-to-run CRM sales system so you can stop wasting months setting up software and start following up tomorrow. Don't leave your revenue hanging. Start working smarter today. Visit WorkSmarterDigital.com to learn more and book a demo. That's WorkSmarterDigital.com. This isn't just a local event. It's a regional gathering of business owners, executives, and organizational leaders from across Maryland, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Virginia. If you're serious about growing your leadership or your business, this is the room you want to be in. Join us on October 14th at the Maryland Theater in Hagerstown, Maryland. Secure your seat at theTSLS.com. That's theTSLS.com. So that's what I meant by that. I feel like I could pause and ask some of those questions of myself before I go to make a decision. What is actually driving my decision?
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the, I wouldn't call it a mantra, but it's almost like a litmus test.
Yeah.
Is if I have a decision in front of me, and it's not life or death decision, it might be, do I want to go to this thing with a friend?
Mm-hmm.
And what I've learned is if it's not an absolute yes, it's an absolute no.
Okay.
Because if it's not an absolute yes, why not? Is
Mm-hmm.
there this thing that's there? Is there something going on? That then I look into that, and it's like, I mean, if it's not an absolute yes because I got to drive 3 hours, well, okay, is that really the problem,
Yeah.
or is it something else? So that's helpful for me sometimes in decision making. Is it an absolute yes?
I think I'm going to have a lot of absolute no's. I'm going to start a tracker on that.
I remember talking to one of my daughters about that, and she came back with, well, no, I have to do these. You're missing the point.
Yeah. Well, I'm very introverted. So when people ask me to do things, it tends to not be an absolute yes. So if I go to an absolute no because of that, I don't think I'd ever leave the house. It's not healthy, Dawn. So I will say I can't apply it to everything. But I can apply it to some things for sure.
Especially, I think where it would creep in would be those things that maybe are motivated because of shoulds. I should do this, or this person will be disappointed if I don't do that, and I have to. And so, oh my gosh, I swear to God, it could be a great game of how many times does she use the word journal or journaling in this episode. But, I will catch myself as I'm writing. I should, and as I'm writing it, I'm catching myself, and I'll put it in quotes, or I'll underline
Oh.
it or something, and then I'll go back and say in the journal entry, why is it that I think I should do that? But I will
Mhm.
catch myself writing I should or I have to, because my personal belief system is we are all at choice. And
Mhm.
so everything I do is my choice.
Okay.
Um and so there is no should, there is no have to. There are consequences, and that's still because of a choice.
Yeah.
So when I look at it that way, because one of my values is independence and freedom, when I look at it that way, I go, oh, I'm choosing to do this,
Mhm.
and I'm choosing. And that helps me reframe if I need to, the
Yeah.
should or have to, or I decide, yeah, I ain't doing it.
Yeah. No, I like that. And I like that you use your example of your core value to kind of drive it too, because this is one of your values. Why do you think you value independence and freedom so much?
Oh boy. I actually recently wrote about this. And it's because growing up, I grew up in an abusive situation,
Mhm.
and I felt stuck.
Yeah.
And so the moment I could, I left home at 17. And, but I felt like I had to stay until I was 17, because I had to be valedictorian in my high school class, because the only way I was going to get out of my house was to go to college.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, like I said, I just recently, processed through all this and got, oh, so that value of not being stuck
Hmm.
and having choice is of paramount importance to
Yeah.
me.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
You are being extra vulnerable today.
I have decided that I am going to always tell the truth. Not that I
Yeah.
lied before.
Yeah, I was like, okay, Dawn, when did you decide that? Let me look back in my journal.
Dawn said this. Was she telling the truth then?
Uh-huh.
But just, no. I mean, I'm going to be who I am.
Yeah.
Years ago, with my former best friend, who is blocked on social media, I had to come up with a saying, because she violated my boundaries all the time. She would not ask for feedback. She would not ask for permission to give feedback. She would just say, you should do this and you need to do this. And
Mhm.
after a while, it was like, you need to ask for permission. But I would say, get it or don't. No, no, no. First is my life, not yours. Get it or don't. And if you don't get it,
Mhm.
there was a
Mhm.
phrase there
There's a phrase. We don't want to have to
that I'm
bleep
not allowed to
anything
say.
else out
That I'm not
today.
allowed to say.
We checked that little box. The kids can listen to this too, Dawn. No, that's.
Yeah,
I'm
my life.
sorry you had to experience that.
It's made. I had a friend reflect to me. She says, you have some of the best boundaries I've ever seen.
Mhm.
And I'm like, really?
You
And
do have really good boundaries.
so thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Mhm. All right. So I don't want to close up the episode yet because I want to share a couple things. So we didn't talk about your business much or all the strengths that you bring to the table. So you are one of SLC's collaborative partners, and I enjoy working with you. And we've worked together on a couple of projects, and it's been amazing. But I want people to understand what some of the strengths are that you bring to the table that maybe Sierra doesn't have, because you have allowed SLC to grow and what we can offer and how we can support our clients. So do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Um, yes, and well, because what I was going to share is like, wow, she's kind of out there in this woo woo person. And so just remember that, Sierra, you asked how I'm different from you
Yeah.
and what I bring that you
Yeah.
don't necessarily bring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, not that everything Sierra does I can do, but there's some lovely crossover. And we do collaborate on the company climate inventory and strategic consulting and all that. What I believe I can bring is a bit more of that spiritual woo woo, if you will, mindset, abundance, getting in touch with yourself. Man, this is really sounding like
You are
like a
woo
Tony
woo.
Robbins self-help.
Yeah,
We're going to be
what's
walking
wrong?
on coals, which no, I would not do that. But I taught an art as meditation
Yeah.
workshop, and part of that was limiting self-belief. It was, if even if you think you're not an artist, you don't have to be an artist.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all can do art. It doesn't matter that I draw stick figures or whatever. Just, but it was to get past that limiting belief, but use it as a meditative practice. And so that kind of, like some of the work we're doing here with each other, asking deeper questions, creating the sacred space to hear the answers, to give observations if that is what the other person desires and wants. And um, I told you before we started recording that I love facilitating retreats, especially where, especially not especially, but even if they're couched in like business objectives, and let's set our intentions for the business for the next year, and then what comes out is this woman goes, I need to set better boundaries with my sister, and I need to go get a therapist.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
That's like so awesome,
Yeah.
right? And that is, I'm not saying that you can't do that. Just don't know that your focus is as much on the woo woo
Yeah.
side. I'm a
That's fair.
Libra,
Yeah.
so
I don't know what that means, but that's cool.
well,
What does it mean when you're a Libra? When people say that, I'm like, you're just going to have to tell me what that means.
so, and you know what? Libra is the only zodiac sign I know because it's mine.
Okay.
I don't know what a Leo is or a Capricorn or whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
I only care about me. So the sign for the Libra is the scales.
Okay.
And so I feel like I embody that. Like I can do a SWOT analysis,
Mm-hmm.
and not at the same time because it's different, uses different part of your brain, different energy. But a little bit later, I could go draw a mandala.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I love my spreadsheets. Oh my God, do I love my spreadsheets. And then when I can create a dashboard using the spreadsheets, oh, be still my heart. And then I'll go sit and cross stitch or play the piano.
Yeah.
So
That's the side I don't have, is that side that you're talking about. I don't think I have it. Yeah. Okay.
or it manifests in a different way.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But I will say I thought it was funny, the example that you used, because the last retreat I did, someone found out they needed counseling in exactly that. They needed the boundaries, so that was comical.
Yes.
No, I agree. That's something completely different you bring to the table. And I think that's why it's very complementary for us to work together. So I didn't even mention at the beginning that you and Mark together run the Shuler Group. So how can people find you and get in touch with you?
That would be the Shuler Group, LLC.com. And Shuler is spelled S-H-U. Do not put a C in it. And even when I say that, sometimes people still put a C in it. But the Shuler Group, LLC.com. I was just thinking about the website, and like we had our logo redone 2 or 3 years ago. It's in chakra colors because it's me.
Of course it is.
So but it's subtle. You don't know unless you know. But I just think about, and I love the messaging, and I down to earth, and the conversational, and that we're real people, and so I was just thinking about, I'm sending them to the website. Let me step back, and what do I
You're
think
like,
they'll
what's
see?
on the website?
Well, yeah, and what will they see? Like, what will well, their experience will be whatever their experience is. What is it that I'm hoping their experience is this isn't just a business consulting whatever. It's hopefully these people really really get it, and they bring something to the table.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I like when you ask me deeper questions, so feel free to do that at any time. And hopefully our listeners are asking some deeper questions after listening to this today. They might even start journaling.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I'd love to hear from them and how many volumes they get going.
And I have a challenge for you around that.
Okay, let's hear it. Bring it on.
Write the real truth.
The real truth. Can I put a lock on it?
You can do whatever you want. You can hide it. You can put a password on it. You can do whatever. But
all right,
be true to yourself.
Okay. It's like I think the thing, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to write that part, but what can I write? You know what I'm saying?
I know what
But
you're
I'll
saying.
work on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
work on it.
Thank you for helping me to grow, Dawn.
My pleasure. And back at ya.
Thank you. All right. And thank you for sticking in through the end of the episode. We hope you found value in today. We had fun. We hope you got something out of it, though. And if you think someone else would benefit from hearing this episode, maybe you've heard them have some limiting beliefs, you could send it over their way and they can give it a listen. But we always want you to share this with people that you think could benefit. So just because you send it doesn't mean you see them having limiting beliefs. I'm joking about that. But one of the most powerful things that we can do is become aware of those stories that are shaping our decisions and what we're doing in life. And so I know it's beneficial to sit down and have these reflections. I tend to not write mine down. They happen in the shower and in the car, but they still happen. And it definitely helps me to grow. And I know after this conversation with Dawn today, I'm going to start asking more about, what story am I telling myself and how might someone else see it differently? So I hope you do the same. If you are interested in sending in a challenge that you would like us to unpack in a future episode, don't forget to shoot us a message at info@branchingoutpodcast.com. And don't forget to follow us so you get those notifications every Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time when a new episode drops. And I can't end the episode without thanking Work Smarter Digital for being a podcast sponsor this season. We're so excited to have you. If someone else out there feels that their mission aligns with what we're doing and our belief that everyone's a leader and has the ability to influence others positively, and we can take these leadership skills and break them down for application in everyday life, then we want you to be a part of this too. So reach out, let us know, and we'll find a way to get you involved. Until next time, keep branching out. Before we wrap up today's episode, I want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you for choosing to spend your time here. I don't take that lightly, and I'm really grateful you're a part of this community. If something from today's conversation resonated with you, I want to encourage you to do a couple of things. First, take one small step. Not everything, just one. Growth doesn't come from hearing more, it comes from applying what you already know. And second, share this episode with someone who could benefit from it. These conversations are meant to spark growth, and you never know who might need to hear exactly what you just heard. If you haven't already, be sure to follow or subscribe to Branching Out with Sierra so you don't miss future episodes. And if you believe in this mission, helping people apply leadership skills to everyday life, and you're interested in sponsoring the podcast, I'd love to connect. You can find more information in the show notes or reach out directly. Quick note before we close, this podcast is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. While we share insights and experiences to support your growth, it's always important to apply what fits your situation and seek professional guidance when needed. And finally, I want you to hear this, no matter where you are in your journey, whether you are leading a team, growing a business, navigating change, or just trying to show up better each day, you are exactly where you need to be to take your next step. And you have the ability to positively influence others in every interaction you have. I'm rooting for you, I believe in your growth, and I'm here to support you along the way. Thanks for being here.